Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Well, welcome to the show today. Winston is traveling. He will be back, promise you he will be back tomorrow, but I'm Stan Kirkland and filling in today for Winston. The weather is brought to you by Haney Technical Center. The high today is going to be 67 degrees. The low tonight is 54. The water temperature is 69 degrees. It's just below that break point of 7 degrees where a lot of saltwater fishermen say that a lot of your species will start moving offshore or have already moved offshore. I know the flounder have. The river readings are brought to us by Sandhill Seafood. Apalachicola River is 2.5 feet. It's steady. If you like the brim fish, you like that, particularly the lower river. Chattahoochee River, the river readings at Kerrville, 4.9 feet and falling. The tides tides are brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home. High tide tonight at 9:54 p.m. Low at 8:15 this morning. So there's about a 1.5 foot tide change. You really like that if you like to saltwater fish, particularly anywhere on nearshore waters along the coast. But if you like the morning fish, tides are not great for that. The marine forecast, the winds are light, 7 miles an hour out of the northeast. And unfortunately, though, there is an 80% chance of rain today, starting around 10 this morning, going into the evening hours. There's a better than a 50% chance of rain. So take a rain jacket or umbrella with you today. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, Ken Paramore and I will be with you. Well, thanks for joining us again. On my right here is Ken Paramore. Ken and I have done this before, and Winston calls on us when he's out of town. We look like the Botsy twins. Winston jokingly told us the other day that Ken and I are on the Panhandle Outdoors Pro Staff. I didn't know we had a pro staff, but we're officially pro staff members. So
we use that term lightly too, don't we? Maybe it should be the amateur staff.
But y'all know Ken. He needs no introduction. But Ken, longtime employee. How many years did you have with GFC, FWC?
35.
35 years. Boy, had a great career working all over the state of Florida. He and his wife, of course, live in Lynn Haven. Ken was our local captain here, and somebody that I went to, if not on a daily basis, just about a everyday basis, because Ken could make some things that I didn't understand. Ken could always explain.
I tried.
But anyway, good to see you, Ken.
You too.
Let's talk first about we just had our turkey banquet back in September. Bring us up to speed on where that money is going. Anything you want to?
The Florida State Board met.
And you, by the way, Ken is on the board. You're one of how many members?
It's about 8.
Okay, it's very, very prestigious position to be on the state board.
Well, thank you. It's fun to be able to be a part of something that you believe in. And as I became, president of our chapter here, I was kind of recruited to become a board member with the state chapter, and the state chapter determines where the Superfund monies are spent. And those monies come from several different places. The FWC, the Florida, the Forest Service, and some other cooperatives. The monies from the sales of turkey permits, and then of course the banquet and fundraising money that are done throughout the state by the state chapters. Once a year, the boards, they get together and they decide where the money's, how much money there is. The biologists from FWC and NWTF, they compile a list and they determine where the needs are, and then the board decides where they're going to spend the money. So this year we met in August, and we had just short of $2 million to spend. It was 1.9 and change, and there's matching funds like I believe it's FWC matches 1 to 25, maybe something like that, or 25.
I think it's close.
25 to 1 or 23 to 1. But anyway, we sat down and came up with. They give the list of their needs. They prioritize them from 1 to wherever. They chose 35 projects on 25 public lands, whether it be management areas, national forests, and they range anywhere from burning to chopping to thinning, just habitat restoration.
Right.
So over the course of 2017, 2018, we'll have hoped to spent the 1.9 million to do these habitat restorations throughout the state.
And that is, and if you are a person that enjoys seeing wild turkeys, you know that habitat improvement is critical. And what they're doing, the Superfund money is going exactly. I looked over the list, and you had sent me a copy of the list. It's going for things like burning, roller chopping.
Herbicide.
Herbicide use and eliminating competition in certain cases, but it's habitat improvement, and that's the name of the game. That's why turkeys flourish in so many areas. It's habitat. Habitat is the key thing.
And one more point that I want to mention is all these monies aren't spent in one area of the state.
Right.
The biologists do a really good job of determining from South Florida management areas all the way up through the Panhandle. And so the list is distributed, like the examples up here: Point Washington, Tate's Hell, Apalachicola, Choctawhatchee River. All those are going to receive some of those monies this year. So it's not and the board makes sure that those monies are equally distributed through these public lands throughout the state.
Now, you mentioned public lands, and we're going to be up against a break here in just a second, but the money is not spent on private property.
No.
And if you would explain real briefly why, what the rationale is.
Well, the money comes from the public that buys the turkey permits and comes to the banquets, and the only places they can go hunt if they don't have a place, or to Wildlife View or whatever, is on public lands. So they will not approve any monies to go to private land.
And if you spent this money on private land, there's no assurance that the land is going to be open to anybody other than the landholder. So that's why that this money is used in the public realm, and it's a good thing. So Ken tell you what, we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we'll see if there's any more in the world of turkeys, and go from there. Well, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. One of the things I wanted to do before we go on is mention that it's the 75th anniversary here in Florida of the public land system. We're so fortunate here in the state, whether you use and hunt on wildlife management areas, and that includes our state forest and our U.S. forests that we have, like Apalachicola National Forest, Osceola National Forest. But if you, we've got over 5 million acres of public lands here in the state. I know before I retired, I was looking one day, and so many states, they have less than 1 million acres of public lands, but we're very fortunate. And so kudos to FWC for the sheer amount of public land and the cooperation that exists between the agency and all of its partners. And Ken, now back to some things we were
real
talking
quick
about.
before we start and get into the next segment. I want to give a shout out to Bubba Hart at Hart's Marine. I know they're a sponsor here on the show, and I recently did some business with Hart's Marine, and I cannot tell you how, when they're saying is, we do whatever it takes, my experience with them was he bent over backwards for me, and was really helpful, a great guy. I just want to say thank you to Bubba Hart and Hart's Marine for a wonderful experience at your dealership, and I encourage anybody who is in the market for either boats or motors or repair work is to go see Bubba Hart at Hart's Marine.
Good deal.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Now, I want to talk real quick. about exotics, particularly the Burmese python in the state of Florida. I recently ran across this magazine article, little magazine article from the Florida Farm Bureau, and it was talking about the Burmese python and how it has now possibly threatened or has a possibility to threaten human health. And University of Florida and some of the researchers did a study in the Everglades as it relates to the Burmese python taking over and really being prolific in the Everglades. And what they found was it's a mirror study to a study that was done in 1979 by the same group. And in 1979, they tested these mosquitoes down there, and they take the blood and then they do the DNA on the mosquitoes, and they found out what the mosquitoes were feeding on. And in '79, they fed on 50% of this cotton rat, and 50% was possums, raccoons, and white-tailed deer. This virus that they carry down there is called the Everglades virus, and it can cause encephalitis, fever, all the things that
and the
these
mosquitoes would spread them.
Mosquitoes spread it. Well, in this new study, they did in the same location, the same time frame, obviously not the same mosquitoes, but they found that the primary 77% of the virus that these mosquitoes, 77% of what they fed on was this cotton rat. This cotton rat is what carries this virus, primarily, according to this article. It's not white-tailed deer and possums and raccoons.
It's a host for the virus, right?
In however many years, 50% was the cotton rat and then these other species. Now it's 77% to 15%, let's say, all cotton rat. And so what they're correlating it with is these Burmese pythons are eating most of the host that these mosquitoes are feeding on. And of course, they're going to go infect humans at one point in time, possibly. So there's more of this human health risk now because of primary diet, if you will, these mosquitoes is this little rat. And what raised my attention to it was, having been, a Florida native and been all over the state, was exotics have proliferated throughout our state since way back. And I feel like if we keep having warm winters, this python is going to be in our neck of the woods one day.
Well, the USGS did a study, if you want to call it that, a few years ago, and I was looking at the map of what they projected over, I want to say it was over 50 years. And it was scary. The dome where they anticipate that the python will spread to completely covers Florida. It actually goes to, if I remember correctly, it's a dome over the southeastern United States. And the anticipated range of the Burmese python, again, this was like, I think it was a 50-year study, is anticipated to be from the Louisiana-Texas line, essentially, up toward Oklahoma, Tennessee, across to the east to North Carolina, South Carolina. Now, who knows what will happen? But that was the anticipated. One thing too, a lot of the islands, the tree islands that, if I'm calling them right, that exist in the Everglades, now the researchers go out there and they say there's no raccoons, deer are sparse. If a deer comes, they're few and far between. But a lot of the animals like deer and raccoon have been eliminated off these tree islands.
And the possums, which relates back to because this thing is a predator that eats these mammals.
Right.
And of course it gets, 12, 15 feet long.
Or longer.
And imagine what it eats and how much it eats. So it's just kind of an eye-opener that these things can take over. And now, according to these researchers, and it's documented by UF, it has the potential to impact human health because of these mosquitoes having exclusive rodent to feed on that carries this virus.
And the possibility of transmission of that virus to people. So anyway, I'm afraid that there's no closing that door, though, for exotics like the Burmese python. You know,
who would have known?
The agency that we work for, that we're both retired from, FWC, has promoted people going out hunting pythons, capturing them, you know, not relocating them, of course, that's illegal, but capturing them and killing these pythons. But that's like the boy sticking his finger in the dike.
And it's kind of the same along the lines of the lionfish.
Right.
You know, lionfish taking over the reefs and eating the small fry of the grouper and snapper, and they just can't seem to catch enough of them to keep the, you know. So I don't know where we're at with that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think with the Burmese python, they're here to stay, as well as some of our exotics. We're going to take another break now, so be patient and join us again in just a minute. Well, thanks for joining us again. Ken Paramore and I are filling in if you just joined us. Winston will be back tomorrow. He's on the road. He and Gail traveling today. One thing I did want to mention is if you've seen the news here lately, the drawdown on Deer Point Lake started yesterday. They're drawing the lake down, I want to say it's 2 feet. This is going to be a longer drawdown, though. This time it's going to be about roughly a 100-day drawdown. They've been something much less than that the past couple of years. I think last year they didn't have very much cold weather at all.
I think actually the last couple of years wasn't enough to do what they hoped for have it done. And like I said earlier, with this, we don't seem to get, and nobody likes cold, but there's times that we need the cold or should get the cold to help out with some of these things that. Yeah. There again, we're talking about another exotic in the lake. The weeds in the lake, some of them exotic.
Yeah, some of them are. I think the problem plant, the lemon bacopa that they're dealing with, I think is a native. But one of the things that I've heard before, and people run down this rabbit trail, is that they're upset because FWC doesn't stop fishing or keep you from taking fish during this drawdown. And I was talking to one of the fisheries biologists just on Friday about this very issue, and she told me that the most recent study, it's been several years that's been done, is between 75 and 80% of the people who bass fish on Deer Point Lake don't even keep the fish anyway. So there's really not anything to be gained by going through all of the tedious process that you have to go through as a state agency to shut down the take of fish on a lake. So nothing to be gained by that.
And the majority of your fishermen don't fish in the wintertime much anyway here. No. I mean, there are some, but you know, predominantly your bass fishermen, you know, when it gets cold, they don't want to be on the water no more than we do.
However, let me say this. If you do like to bass fish, it is a great time to go out. If you want to keep fish, it doesn't matter. The few fish that will be taken, it doesn't matter. But it's a great time because with that water being drawn down, the fish are in those canals, or not necessarily the canals, but in those creeks and runs, and a lot more accessible.
And right now, the month of November, everybody around I've talked to have been killing bass. Sandhill ponds, the neighbor of mine goes up and been going up and just killing. So
yeah, I've seen a few photos where people have been catching some nice bass. In fact, there's been some in the News Herald too. Kent, Thanksgiving's coming up. What do you have? You and your family
got 2 days away.
Yeah, 2 days away.
2 days away.
I did see, by the way, rain is predicted for Thanksgiving Day. I hate to be a downer, but
and gun season opens for 4 days.
That's right. Be open, and then it'll come back in December.
The guns for deer haven't been, just coming back for a 4-day spurt. So, and the dog hunters will be busy.
Right.
Everybody that gets out and hunts traditionally on the Thanksgiving weekend, which is why we have our 4 days, give them a chance to get in the field. Hopefully it'll be cool weather and then go do their hunting and come back and have their turkey dinner.
There you go. Our son's coming in. He's works in Atlanta. He's a physician in Atlanta, so he's going to get to come home. We're going to spend some time with him. I'm not going to hunt over Thanksgiving, but we'll be hunting a little later. Ken, one question that I get routinely, and this caused people to set their teeth on edge a little, but what are you hearing about bears? You know, do y'all have any on your place
No,
where you
but
hunt?
The people that I talk to, a lot of them are saying they have more bears than they have ever had or ever seen. They're tearing up their feeders. So they go to sit, you know, especially during archery season now when bears come in, you know, they'll lay down on the ground, they'll wait on the feeder to go off, they'll tear the feeder down. Everybody's got bears, particularly in areas that seem to be more swampier or have more creek runs and tie swamp, and I'm fortunate enough to be a little bit further north, and we have them occasionally, but some of them, you know, they say they're really a problem.
If you're south of I-10, for the most part in the Panhandle, you're in bear habitat.
Eventually, yeah.
There's so many of the counties now where we have bears, and bears are very prolific. They've done very well. I know we had a hunting season a few years ago, and they killed their quota in one day across the state. The areas where the season was open, a lot of people got up in arms about it, but we have an abundance of bears. I know the place that I turkey hunt, a friend's farm over in Wakulla County, and they sent me some photos, and I should have brought them in for this morning, but he sent me 3 photos, and these are all daytime photos, and they're all bears, and it's obviously different bears out on the field. And one, there's even a gobbler standing some distance. You can see him standing behind the bear. It's pretty entertaining.
He wouldn't let him get to the corn.
Oh no. He kept him back. But
I don't know where this is going to go. You know, any type of wildlife management or wildlife should be maintained for a sustainable harvest for their benefit, and obviously we haven't put a dent in the bear population by hunting.
Right.
So maybe in a year or 2 or 3 we'll have the opportunity.
I know. Folks, thank you for joining us, and hope to see you again soon.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.